Well, Tina, sea levels are expected to increase in this century at a pretty alarming rate. Dr. Clark Alexander at the Skidaway Institute of Oceanography has been studying this issue, and he says warming water is not only changing sea levels, but helping to make hurricanes that do form even worse.
Where sea level is very important for how the coast responds to changing conditions, storms.
Dr. Clark Alexander says sea level rise is real and affecting coastal communities even without a storm. He says it's making high tides higher.
So over time, we get more and more flooding of upland properties just by the very fact that sea levels are rising.
He says that's why there are more shallow flood advisories now.
Here in Savannah, sea level rise has been about a foot in the last 100 years based on the Fort Pulaski tide gauge. But the rate of sea level rise is predicted to increase on the order of perhaps 2 to 3 times faster than it is rising today.
If that happens by the end of this century, communities might look a lot different.
1 foot of sea level rise you start seeing the lowest lying areas starting to get some water associated with them.
These models show what could happen as water levels increase, even to the Institute itself at Skidaway Island.
3 feet of sea level rise, and now this is sort of the general estimate that most models are saying is a reasonable planning estimate, and you can see that all low-lying areas have been inundated. There are, Skidaway Institute actually, a third of our campus is inundated.
Dr. Alexander says higher sea levels mean changing the way communities build and upgrading drainage systems. He says warming ocean water can be a double whammy for ocean communities. It makes sea levels higher, which contribute to flooding, even without a storm. And if a hurricane does form, it makes the hurricane worse.
And there seems to be a consensus developing that what we'll see is more intense storms because the ocean water is warmer, giving more energy to the storms.
Dr. Alexander says in terms of sea level rise, many models show big changes by 2030 or 2040. He says now is the time for more communities to make more plans to deal with those changes. Joanne Merrigan, WSAV News 3.